Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yeah, you never saw it coming. Welcome back. It's America's Family History Show. Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, the Radio Root Sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment of the show is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. On the guest list today, Kate Porter from Slatersville, Rhode Island is coming on. She's a great blogger and has written a series of articles about the great-grandfather that never was. And she'll explain what that means and where her research led her, and some really interesting stories involved with that one. And then later in the show, a lady who was, I guess you'd call her a reluctant archivist. Yeah, she was a professional genealogist and kind of got roped into being an archivist for a small county in Tennessee. She calls herself the Archive Lady. You're going to love hearing from Melissa Barker and what she's learned about archives since she took on this new task and what you can get from it as well. That's later on in the show. Hey, by the way, congratulations to Mary Lore. She is the winner of David Allen Lambert's free 1-hour consultation for being a subscriber to our weekly Genie newsletter. You can sign up at ExtremeGenes.com or through our Extreme Genes Facebook page. And by the way, if by the end of August you are a subscriber, you're eligible for a drawing we're going to do for a Heritage Collector suite of software. And this stuff is incredible. You can tag photos with it. You can get yourself organized, eliminate duplicate photos. There's slideshows. You can find photos in seconds. And this is like an $80 value. So get signed up at ExtremeGenes.com. The Weekly Genie is absolutely free, and we'd love to have you as part of that community. Right now, let us head out to Beantown and my good friend David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. How are you, David?
I'm doing great, Fish. How about yourself?
Awesome. In fact, looking forward to seeing you soon in Boston.
I know. Beantown will never be the same. Two of us in the same place.
Exactly.
I'm going to start our Family History News with a shout out to our friends at MyHeritage.com. They've recently announced they have surpassed 8 billion searchable records on their super search. So
Sweet.
Congratulations to the people at MyHeritage.
Yes, very nice.
A lot of times on genealogy, I search on genes and genetics and DNA. Well, I was searching on old genes, but I mean blue genes.
You're talking JEANS.
Yeah, I've been losing weight because of trying to get more healthy and a lot more walking. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do with these old jeans that don't fit me anymore? And I discovered a story from 2014 about the discovery of the oldest known trousers in the world under jeans. Apparently, a team of archaeologists in Western China uncovering the remains of 2 nomadic herders came across a 3,000-year-old pair of pants with woven patterns. So needless to say, you never think your jeans are wearing out. Well, these must have survived pretty well. So I'd like to find out who made them.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Did they have Levi stitched on the back?
I don't know, but I'll tell you something. If they do, I think Levi needs to market a new set of them to sell to people.
Yes.
3,000 years of wear and still wearing fine. My next story is a real DNA story this time. This story is about ancient DNA of the Canaanites. The Canaanites were a biblical people mentioned in the Old Testament. Well, recently, burials from about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago were discovered, and they're now being able to extract DNA. They've found, Fish, that the descendants of these ancient Canaanites are pretty much the people who now live in Lebanon.
The Lebanese are the Canaanites. Yeah, they're saying something like 90% of their DNA came from the Canaanites. I guess they had like 5 different bodies they found from 3,000 years ago, and they were able to extract DNA from behind the ear. It's like the hardest part of the skull. This is a fairly recent discovery that this area basically keeps a little time capsule of DNA. So people can capture that now and match it up to living individuals. How incredible is that?
It's pretty amazing. Speaking of finding bodies, a body of a 12th century Native American was found in Ohio by a field hunter for arrowheads. While searching down by the Mohawk Dam last month, a man who was out basically looking for arrowheads stumbled upon these human remains, and it turns out they weren't of a recent murder, so they don't have to call the detective work of Fisher here. This is a 900-year-old burial.
Wow. So we're talking 12th century here.
Mm-hmm. The local Native Americans who live in this area of Ohio will no doubt take a great interest and see the remains repatriated and buried on native land.
Absolutely.
In jolly old England, back in the days of the plague, thousands upon thousands of people were buried in mass graves. Some of these graves in the new churchyard or Bedlam burial ground in London have an estimated 25,000 people buried there. They've already cataloged and done a database of over 5,000 people that have been found on the site. So think about this. We're not talking thousands of years ago. We're talking hundreds of years ago. So if you have an ancestor who lived in London during the era of the plague, it's quite possible you could be getting a GED match and a database someday of, hey, Bob was found in London and he'd like to connect with you.
And we're talking what, from the 1500s?
1500s, 1600s during the plague, the
Wow.
Great Plague. Yeah, and starting around 1569, this cemetery existed. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible these are people that have descendants who came over to the colonies years later. So you may have an ancestor that they've recently dug up. So stay tuned.
That's incredible. And by the way, the story is found on our website, extremegenes.com. You can see some incredible pictures from this.
Today's blogger spotlight goes out to my good friends with the In-Depth Genealogist. And on the blog, theinDepthGenealogist.com/blog, you'll find interesting stories, including their weekly chit-chat on genealogy. Well, the story I loved was the one just recently posted called The Dog Days of Summer. And on this, they talk about family pets.
Oh, good call.
So that's one that you might try. In fact, the recent issue of American Ancestors, we talk about family pets. So I thought there was a nice little connection there. Well, that's all I have for this week. But don't forget, if you're not a member of American Ancestors, NEHGS offers you a free guest membership. Or if you decide to join, save $20 off the price by remembering Extreme. Brought to you by Extreme Genes. I'll see you soon in Beantown, Fish.
All right. Thanks so much, David. And coming up next, we're going to go out to Slatersville, Rhode Island, and talk to Kate Porter. She's a blogger talking about the great-grandfather that never was and her journey to discover him. She found out a little more than I think she bargained for. That's coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Legacy Tree Genealogists is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've worked with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476 or register online to get a free estimate. Right now, you can save up to $100 on professional genealogy research. But hurry, this offer expires at the end of the month. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom sessions settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Hey, welcome back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It's Fisher here, and this segment is brought to you by 23andme.com DNA. And, you know, when we become genealogical detectives, we often go into a certain case dealing with tracing down an ancestor with certain assumptions. And that happened to my friend Kate Porter. She is the author of the blog geniejourney.com and recently wrote about this, the great-grandfather that never was. She's in Slatersville, Rhode Island. Hi, Kate. How are you? Welcome to Extreme Genes.
Hi. Good. How are you?
Awesome. This is a great little article, and I love kind of the progress that you make and the updated pieces that you documented as you went along this journey. Let's talk about the beginning. Who were you looking for, and what were the assumptions?
So the man I was looking for was Otto's family, and he is my great-grandfather on my father's side. So I am not familiar with my father's side because I actually did not grow up with him. But I still find it interesting to really track down his roots and more about him. So story has it is that Otto left his wife and his son, which was my grandfather, behind in Massachusetts because his wife was involved in some pretty illegal stuff. So I heard. What I heard is that he kind of just went over to Michigan and started to just live his life there. And I had thought that, you know, my grandfather was the only son and that he just married and had no children moving forward. So that was kind of my assumption.
Sure.
My assumption was that he might have been a pretty decent guy, and, you know, maybe he just kind of left because he had to.
Well, those things do happen. So you began the journey to look for this guy in Michigan, and what techniques did you use?
I definitely used Ancestry.com, obviously, and the files that were available, even just a few years back, there weren't as many, right? So obviously they add a lot more files and records as the time goes on. So all of a sudden, you know, a new entry came up, and it included his marriage record to a woman named Lita Bondi. So next I saw another record come up that really kind of threw me off, right? It was another woman, and this was prior to that marriage. So I started thinking, you know, was this guy married to 3 women? And it started to kind of put me down another path.
And then your assumptions started changing.
Yeah, my assumptions started changing. So as I was looking around actually for Otto's siblings' obituaries, I found a couple, and I found one in particular that stated all of the children's names. From there, I started to use just Google, and I realized that one of the children who was a son of this sibling of Otto, his middle name was Otto. So I said,
A little closeness there, perhaps.
A little closeness there. So as I started to look through the obituary, I started to notice the names of living members of the family. That's when I started to use Facebook, which is good, and sometimes it doesn't end up the way you want it. Some folks will answer you, some folks won't. But luckily, these folks who were in Canada, who are my second cousins and second cousins once removed, they responded and kind of started unraveling the story from there.
All right. What did they tell you?
So they had told me that he definitely got married a second time, and not only did he get married, but he had a whopping 5 children from that marriage.
Wow.
Yes. So I began to see the pictures of them, and it really struck me as a surprise because I just had no idea that he had this whole other family and that, my grandfather had all these half-siblings out there. From there, I had then found out that he had actually left that family too.
Oh, boy. So this is a pattern now.
It was a pattern, yes. And so he had left that family and actually ran off with the aunt of one of his son-in-laws.
No. Oh, this always, you can't tell the players without a scorecard, they always say at the baseball games, right? And that's the way it is in genealogy sometimes.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. So that was quite surprising. Now, I guess I forgot to mention that prior to finding out about this family, I found where he was buried. He was buried in Inverness, Florida, and he was buried with his third wife. Now, the sad thing that I saw about this headstone was that it did not show a death date for Otto. And I began to feel really kind of bad, right? I started to think, well, maybe he just didn't have anyone else to memorialize him after he was gone. Maybe Melina had passed before him. Maybe there was just no one else there to kind of wrap up that paperwork.
Sure.
So I started to feel bad, and thoughts started to come around in my head to say, even though I didn't know this man, would it make sense to kind of close that story and fill in that date, that death year? And then, lo and behold, less than a week later, that is when I found out that not only did he have 5 children from another marriage, but he left them too, the same way that he left my grandfather and technically the same way my father left me.
Wow.
So it's kind of a pattern.
Yeah, it's something that goes on the Y chromosome side of your family.
Yes, apparently. Only poor Charles, he never left, but, it definitely skipped generations. So that's what hit me a bit. Again, I had this assumption that maybe he had to leave and he just led a quiet life thereafter. And then I realized that he tended to make the same, I'd call it a mistake again. So from there, I did end up reaching out and found his one final last relative who was living. She was left when she was about 7 years old, which really struck me. And it kind of broke my heart, right?
So was your grandaunt?
Yes. Yes, it is. And so she's the last living child of Otto's family, including my grandfather, who I never met. And I was able to get a lot of information from her daughter, actually, who was kind of being the liaison between us.
And was she aware of the existence of your grandfather?
Apparently she was, but only later on in life. Yeah. So I think she hadn't really thought too much about it because he had left so early. But she was, and she received a few letters, actually, from my father's side of the family kind of introducing themselves. So this is news to me, but this was definitely something that she, I guess, had known but didn't really pursue at a later age.
Wow. And so what did you do with the gravestone now? You're feeling a little dilemma here, I sense. It's like, wait a minute, do I want to memorialize this guy? He's abandoned 2 families and 6 kids and who knows what else. What did you decide to do? Yeah,
as I started to think about it, I started to think about how no matter what he decided to do or chose to do, if it weren't for him, as well as several other people, I wouldn't have been on this earth. And maybe if he didn't mess up, maybe the other mess ups thereafter wouldn't have occurred either. So he's still human, right? And it kind of made me sad to think that his death date was just not on there, and it wouldn't be ever, probably. Sure. I mean, I can't think of anyone else who would probably think of doing that. So I contacted a local company and got a quote. It's pretty expensive, but they got it done pretty quickly, and now he rests with a final burial date.
Wow. What a great story, Kate. Unbelievable journey. Now, let me ask you this, because I like to find out what other documents and photographs relatives have when I reach out to them. And in fact, before the internet was really a big thing, I did that a lot. But, you'd use things like directory assistance and you'd write letters. Those are long paper things with a sticky flap on the back, and you'd put a stamp on them and you put them in a thing called a mailbox, and you'd hopefully get a response. And they would share photographs and documents. I got family Bible records. Were you able to obtain anything relating to this branch of your family from some of these people?
Oh, yes. So not only did I receive a picture of him at the ripe old age of 97 years old.
Whoa!
in a nursing home down in Florida. But I also received a photo of him and the family that he left not long after he did so. And really kind of looking at all their faces, you see something going on with the family. I can just feel it. And so that's actually on my blog as well. So I was able to get that photograph from the daughter of the last living child. And I also received the death certificate and the death notice. And here's the kicker, actually. When I had originally reached out to the local offices to inquire about getting his death date on his gravestone, they had actually told me that they had no record of him being buried there at all, which threw me for a loop.
Wow.
Because I started saying, where is this guy's body buried? And that was kind of the mystery question I put forth on that first blog. Where's his body buried?
Where'd they take him? Yeah.
Where is he? So once I received this confirmation that he was in fact buried here by the remaining family who somehow had this information, it seemed to be that it was perhaps an error, and maybe they just didn't file the paperwork with the town. So I was relieved to know that he is in fact buried there, and that services were held there after the church services.
Sure.
So I did receive a lot of information, and it was just really interesting to know that the last living child had all this information despite her being left long ago, and she actually now wants to meet me, and she's about 83 years old.
Oh, how fun.
That'll be an interesting.
Yes. Well, here's one question for you. Did you ever calculate when he died, how old were you? Were you around yet?
I was, actually. Let's see. So I was 7 years old.
7 years old. So theoretically, you could have actually met this guy.
I could have, yeah, which is funny because many of my ancestors on that side I couldn't have. They died rather early on. So he's one of the few that I definitely could have met. I think that's kind of where my title came in, because he just never was my great-grandfather, you know, and yeah, I mean, he still is, you know.
Yeah, he is in one way, but in other ways he's not, and that's why you called it the great-grandfather that never was. She's Kate Porter. She's from Rhode Island. She writes The Genie Journey. Go to geniejourney.com, and you can see some of the photos connected with that. Kate, been a pleasure having you on. I know you're also involved with Next Gen, right?
Well, I just got started by following them on Twitter and LinkedIn, and my goal is after my genealogy research class through BU, I hope to reach out to them and get more involved.
Awesome. Kate Porter from Slatersville, Rhode Island. Thanks for coming on, and we look forward to keeping up with you, Kate.
Thanks.
And coming up next, we'll take you out to Houston County, Tennessee, where you're going to meet a lady named Melissa Barker. Melissa was a little hesitant about taking a job as an archivist locally. She was a professional genealogist, and it turned into something incredible. You're going to want to hear her stories and how you can take advantage of archives. Coming up next in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file style and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Master's option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show. It's Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, the Radio Root Sleuth, and this segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. And for a long time, I've been reminding people, if you're getting into your family history research, into your genealogy, don't just sign up for a subscription somewhere. You got to get out and get into the archives. And in the process of working on this show, of course, I ran into a lady who calls herself the Archive Lady. Her name is Melissa Barker. She's in Houston County, Tennessee, and I'm in love with her little Southern accent. How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you?
Awesome. How long have you been the Archive Lady?
I have been the Archive Lady for about 6 years now.
Okay.
Working in the Houston County, Tennessee Archives has just been a dream come true job.
Really? Now, I remember you were telling me off air that this wasn't the way you approached it when you first heard about this.
Actually, no. I'll tell you a little story about how our archives was formed. In 2010, a local lady here was researching her genealogy and found that her grandfather had been murdered here on the streets of Houston County in 1921. And she had accessed the court records on microfilm, but she wanted to actually touch the original records. And how many of us genealogists want to touch those original records?
Yes.
And she was sent to the basement of the courthouse, to the vault. And when she got there, she couldn't get in the vault because the records were stored to the ceiling and to the door.
Oh, no.
And so she called several of her genealogy friends, and we got together and started cleaning out the vault on this particular day, went to lunch, and decided we needed an archive to preserve our records. Our county had been formed in 1871, and nothing had been done with our records. And so they asked for a volunteer to head this up. So they all looked at me and said, "Oh, Melissa, you're a professional genealogist. You know how to do this. You be the archivist." I almost said no, and I thought, well, maybe it might be interesting. And so I went back to school and got my certification in archives management. And as they say, the rest is archival history.
Well, there is so much material that is not online, so much that's not even on microfilm. I bet you have a lot of that stuff in your archives there.
I do, and one of the first things that I ran across when we were organizing these records was a dog registration book.
Really?
Yes. Evidently, this is actually a mandate or a law that was in Tennessee, started way back in the 1800s, that if you owned a dog that was over 6 months old, you had to register that dog.
Okay.
And the book that we had is dated 1901 to 1919. You came into the county court clerk's office to register your dog. You had to give the dog's name, a description of the dog's breed, and then pay the tax. It started out being $1, and then by 1919 it was $3. But the interesting thing about this dog registration that I found out is all the money goes into what was called the sheep fund.
The sheep fund.
The animal. And when the local farmer had one of their sheep that was damaged or killed by a dog, they were able to recoup money from the sheep fund to purchase another sheep.
So it's like dog insurance, basically.
Exactly. At the end of the year, if there was money left in the sheep fund, it would go to the schools to purchase books and materials.
Well, what a clever idea. Somebody ought to do that today.
I can tell you one of the most popular dog names in the registration book was Fido.
Fido. Okay. Well, that was Lincoln's dog, right? So sure, it would be popular at that point.
Yeah.
What else have you found in there?
I tell you, Scott, one of the most wonderful records to find stories about your ancestors are court records. And you asked about finding relatives. One of the wonderful things about working in this archive is that my husband's family has lived in this area for over 5 generations. And every once in a while, I'll run across a record that has to do with his family. And in 1945, his great-grandfather, Walter Gray Barker, was divorcing his third wife, Miss Janie. Mm-hmm. And in the court records, it describes his reason for the divorce, and that was because he felt like she was trying to kill him by putting a spider in his biscuit.
I love that. There's a little flavor for your family history.
Yep. And then another court record that I located from 1887, seems there was a scoundrel in town, a Mr. John Elliott. He was brought up on charges of disturbing the peace, which is a fairly normal charge. But once I started reading the court case, he had taken a dead squirrel and tied it to a horse that was also attached to another horse and a buggy. This dead squirrel spooked that horse, and the horse and buggy went all through town, wreaking all sorts of havoc.
I love that.
One of the things I have found is we find artifacts. And Mr. William Hughes in 1952 had been brought up on charges of going armed with a straight razor. A lot of times the court records are trifolded and put in these little sleeves.
Sure.
And after I had taken the documents out, I felt the folder and I thought, there's something else in there. And I looked in there, and the actual straight razor from 1952 was in there.
No, that's amazing. Yes. Now, were you able to maybe track down some of the descendants of this person?
I did. I talked to his granddaughter, and she was very surprised to find out that her grandfather had done this.
Oh, really? She knew him well, probably.
Yes, she did. And so she was very surprised.
So people come in there, obviously, from out of town. You're kind of a new archive then, really, only 6 or 7 years. What's been the reaction so far to your efforts?
Very positive, locally and for people coming into our archives from out of state, because our little county is one of those counties you drive through to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
We actually were a very big county back when the railroad was here. One of those old stories about they pulled the railroad out and things kind of die out. But we have a lot of history in these small counties, and those people, their families grow up and they move off to other places. So when they research their families, they come back looking for those records.
Exactly. And, I think it's important for people to realize that a lot of these archivists out there are like yourself. You love what you do. You're happy to research it on behalf of people as a service. I actually reached out to a lady in London with an email back about 15 years ago, and she actually went to an original book which had been digitized because the date that was in by the crease in the center of the book, I couldn't read it, and I needed to know that date to prove that that was my person. The very next day, I got an email back, despite the time difference, that validated that I had found my second great-grandmother in this little book in London because an archivist was there to help me.
Yeah, and one thing that helps with me is that I am a genealogist. I've been doing genealogy for 27 years, and so I love working with genealogists. But most archivists do. They want to find that information for you. They love sharing the records that they have, and especially those ones that are not online or not microfilmed, because they're usually the most precious and they hold the most stories.
Right. Do you actually make copies for people or scan them for them periodically?
Yes, we do both. If you email us, and if we're able to scan them and email them to you, we will be glad to do that. Or if you walk in the door, want a copy of what you find, we are glad to copy it.
And that's the way it is with an awful lot of archives around the country as well. What other advice would you have, archive lady, for people who have never been?
I would just encourage them to contact either by phone or email, or if you're able to travel, go to these archives. Ask the archivist about what's behind those closed doors, because many times these records are not sitting in front of you to look at. A lot of these records are stored in back rooms on shelves. So talk to the archivist. Get to know the archivist there. Ask them about their records, what is not microfilmed. Ask them about their unprocessed records. We have records donated all the time, and we have so much to do in a day that we can't get to them. And so a lot of times they have to sit on a shelf for just a little while before we can process them. But if you walk in and ask, what kind of unprocessed records do you have, you might find some gems.
She's Melissa Barker. She's the archive lady in Houston County, Tennessee. It has been a delight, Melissa. Thanks so much for the advice and some great stories there.
Thanks a lot, Scott, for having me on.
All right, and Tom Perry is coming up next, our preservation authority, with more advice about how you can preserve your precious heirlooms. He's been on the road. We'll find out where he's headed next, coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes. Well, Jeannies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Legacy Tree Genealogists is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've worked with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476 or register online to get a free estimate. Right now, you can save up to $100 on professional genealogy research. But hurry, this offer expires at the end of the month. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
And it is preservation time at Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, and this segment is brought to you by myheritage.com. And Tom Perry is here from tmcplace.com. He is our preservation authority. How are you, Tom?
Pretty good. Had a lot of fun down in Tucson last week. They're doing some new deals with the DVA, which are really going to be exciting for people to get into. There's a new thing that they announced there. It's called SMS messaging, and it's cool if you have like a lot of people in your family line. You can sign up for this and send everybody a text at one time saying, hey, we're going to be doing this. Hey, do you want to get together and do this? So there's all kinds of new and cool stuff coming down the family history pipeline.
I love hearing that. And next up on your summer travels, you're going to be in Worcester, Massachusetts for the New England Historic Genealogical Society event, and you're going to be a keynote speaker there about preservation.
Oh, that's just great. I'm sure David tried to nuke that for me, but they're keeping me on. David's so fun. It's going to be neat to go to his turf and actually talk to his people. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking really forward to it.
Absolutely. All right, we've got an email here from Dave Bassett in Tacoma, Washington, and he says, Tom, my question is in regards to an old family photo of my grandmother and great-grandmother, and it is attached. The child in the photo is my grandmother. She was born in 1908, and this is the only known photo of her and her mother. Now, you can see the photo is in a state of decay. He said, I desperately want to have it scanned and touched up, but I'm afraid afraid if the frame and glass are removed, it will crumble. I'm looking for a miracle and hoping you can help. My problem is this. I live near Tacoma, and the photo hangs in my mother's home in North Carolina. We'll be traveling back home in a couple of weeks, and I'm hoping you may have connections of a reputable company who can assist me with this. I'd prefer it be you, but my fear is the transportation, and I estimate the size to be about 2 feet by 3 feet. It's a real classic picture, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, absolutely. And once again, those that aren't driving will hold the picture up to the microphone so you can look into your speaker and see it. But it's a wonderful picture. I have the exact same frame on some of my grandparents. I think it was like a famous plaster molding back then. In fact, some of these are actually carved out of wood. And if you actually have a real wood one that's not plaster, they're worth a lot of money.
And I'm seeing a lot of flaking going on in the picture. What causes that?
Well, there's a lot of things that can cause that. As he suggested, it might be adhered to the glass now. And so just when it gets adhered to the glass, as it goes through hot and cold spells, even in the house, just from the furnace kicking on, it can kind of pull away from the glass and re-stick to the glass. And every time it does that, one of the little pieces of the front of the photo stick to the glass, and then when it gets warm, it falls off. So if we actually took this apart, do not take this apart. There could be all kinds of flaking down at the bottom of the little pieces, but you're not going to be able to put them back together. That makes no sense. So a picture like this, don't transport it. Leave it in North Carolina where it is. I'm going to do some research and find somebody up there that can help you. There's a couple different ways you can go. If you find a professional sign company that makes billboards, they should have a big scanner and they can scan it. Some of those kind of places have only a scanner that you have to have flat things go through them.
Sure.
But some people, when they want to do something with like an old oil painting, there's a way to scan that. If that's unavailable, what I would do is find the best professional photographer you can in the area that does portraits, take it into him. All he has to do is he sets up his tripod over the picture so the camera's on the bottom of the tripod instead of the top, so it's kind of hanging down between the legs, and put on a polarizing filter, because once he gets it lit with a polarizing filter, the kind that has two stages to it, you turn one ring until all the glare goes away, and then you take a photo of it. And if he has a real super high DPI on his camera, which you should be able to, he's got a good Nikon, he can shoot like a RAW, have him shoot a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and you know, when I had my picture taken with the fireman that I found, it was over 30 inches long, and that's exactly how we did it. They set up a camera in front of it and took an outstanding picture of it at a very high DPI, and my copy is better than the original. When we return, what are we going to talk about, Tom?
Let's do some more emails.
All right, coming up next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com. extremegene.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities. And it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's Top 10 Tips for Beginning Genealogists from the Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. We are back. It's our final segment of Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth on America's Family History Show. And we're talking preservation with Tom Perry, the Preservation Authority from tmcplace.com. And you had one last thought on Mike's email from our last segment, Tom. And what was that?
Yeah, right. During the commercials, when we were talking a little bit about this, make sure when you go to a professional photographer, make sure he shoots it at all different kinds of settings. Do the RAW, do a TIFF, do JPEGs, do everything you can, as big as you can. Even if right now you can't use a RAW file, you don't know how to deal with it, that's fine. You want to get that because any professional editor such as ourselves, we would want to start with a RAW picture, and we could go in and make this thing just like the day it was taken. In fact, like you said, the fireman, make it actually better than the photo ever was.
Yeah, I was actually able to go in and take out discolorations. There are even letters that were completely ruined by discolorations, but I took letters from other parts of the name key and just replaced them with those, and it came out just gorgeous, and I'd rather have the one I have than the original I copied it from.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the kinds of things that you can actually make a better duplicate than the original was. If you can afford it, have the guy shoot some film also, because film has a special touch to it that regular digital doesn't. If they have like a large Hasselblad, a large format picture, it's going to cost a lot more money. But something like that, having a good 2 1/4 square negative of something like this, do you want to make this so beautiful? Knock yourself out. If you just want to get it restored as little as possible, then just go the digital route. But something like this, if it was mine, I'd spend a little money and get it done right.
All right. Now, here's another email. This is from somebody else named Tom. And he says, I have a photo, 1919 vintage, and a digital file of 2 World War I ancestors that I'd like to get made into high-quality prints for framing. You mentioned on the show to use high-definition scanners, but no one around here seems to know what I'm asking for. Can you give me more specific info to take to a photo shop or sign maker shop?
Well, Tom, Amazon has some really crappy scanners and some really good scanners. There's an Epson on the site right now. I can't recall the number. You can call me or write me again, and I can be in my office and write it down for you. And it retails for about $2,000, and it is an amazing scanner. You can do negatives. You can do photos. I used to use Canons a lot, but Canon's kind of got a little bit away from the professional and more into like prosumer and consumer. And I love my old Canons, but this new Epson is just absolutely incredible. So give me a call or send me another email or get me at AskTomP on Twitter, and then I can get back to you immediately and tell you what the model number is, and other followers will be able to see it too.
Now, wait a minute. Nobody's going to be able to afford something that expensive. How would they manage that?
Get together with your family. Have everybody go in on it. A lot of times I've seen people get something like this, spend $2,000 or even a less expensive one for $1,000. They go and scan all their stuff. They get everything done. Then they turn around and sell it on eBay. So if you pay, say, $2,000 for it, you should be able to easily get $1,800 for it. And so it costs you a couple $100. That's nothing to be able to scan all your stuff. So that's one thing you can always do. Look for used ones. This is too new to probably find a used one, but look on eBay. But get a good quality scanner and then turn around and sell on eBay, because people are looking for stuff. And, I can save $250 by buying a used one that they said, Grandma just drove to church on Sunday. And they'll buy it from you. So it costs you $250 for a $2,000 scanner to use it for a week.
Boy, that's good thinking. Very smart. All right, you can email Tom at asktom@tmcplace.com, or you can tweet him, as he mentioned, at AskTomP. All right, Tom, good to see you again. Back on the road in a week or so, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're getting all ready to go back and hang out in David's territory.
All right, talk to you again next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that wraps it up for this week. Thanks for joining us. Hey, just a reminder, by the way, when you sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter this month, If you're on our list of subscribers, by the end of the month, you're eligible for a drawing we're going to do for Heritage Collectors software. This is very special stuff that'll help you actually tag people in your photographs. It's really useful, and you've heard Tom talk about it in the past. So you can sign up at extremegenes.com or on our Facebook page. Hey, by the way, if you missed any of the show, of course, don't forget to catch us on the podcast at extremegenes.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn Radio. Talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.